In this video, we're going to be replacing the rear upper arm, or the rear upper control arm, in this 2005 Honda Element. We're going to remove the rear wheel. It's going to be a 19 millimeter. Go ahead and take off the lug nuts now. So our speed sensor, or ABS cable, is attached here by two clips, two little push clips going through this bracket. So we're just going to use a pair of needle nose pliers and squeeze those clips, push it through the bracket. And there you go. We will be reattaching this to the new bracket. So we can put this aside the best we can, or drop it down, just make sure it doesn't get damaged, and move on. So our control arm is held in by two bolts, front and back, or outside and inner. They're going to be 17 millimeters. So we're going to back up the front of the bolt, the wrench, use the impact on the back here. So now in the back, we have another bolt. It's going to be, again, 17 millimeters. We're going to back up the front with a 17 millimeter wrench. And if you decide to come in from this side, you're going to need a shallow socket. Otherwise, you'll be up against this frame here, and you won't have room to work or remove your tool. Once you have your nut off of both of these, you can try and drive out that stud. So what you want to do is support your lower trailing arm in your suspension before you take your bolts out. So we're just going to put this under here and raise up the jack. And all we're going to do is just lift up the suspension slightly. We're not looking to move it, just that much. So just going to take a small little hammer here and push our studs through. Let's get one side out first, and hopefully with the movement of this bar, this one will be a little easier to pop out. So I'm going to grab a Phillips screwdriver just to drive this bolt out. So you can use a Phillips screwdriver to punch this out if you decide to, or you can use an actual punch and push that bolt through. Again, watch on the other end your speed sensor ABS cable. So now with the front of our upper arm loose, it makes the back bolt removal a little bit easier. Now with that free, just go ahead and remove your upper arm. So off camera, we went ahead and aligned our new bracket to match the length and the lineup where our bolts will go to the old one. And now that we're ready to put it into the vehicle, we'll go ahead and do that. So what we're going to do is put the back in first. We'll put a bolt through. And then we will temporarily just thread this on, just so that bolt doesn't back itself out. And then we're going to work on the front here. Working in the front, even though it's the same length as our original, you'll notice that it doesn't line up. The hub and knuckle leaned forward when we removed this bar originally. So instead of making this match and leave it that way, meaning your tire would be out, what we're going to do to get these two aligned is we're going to try and push our hub backwards. So try and move this hole to match this hole. It's not going to be easy. There is an alternative if that doesn't work. So what we're going to do to get these holes to line up is we're going to loosen this jam nut, and we're going to spin the middle turnbuckle piece here to give us more length going this way. We have to keep this in position because we're going to back up to that position. Once we have those lined up, we'll go ahead and put our bolt through. We'll turn this turnbuckle back, and we'll pull it back up to this lock nut, which is now pulling our knuckle and hub where it needs to be. Once we've bottomed out on that lock nut, we'll bring this one back in and we'll tighten these down. So you'll notice that our speed sensor or ABS sensor can't plug into these holes. That's not actually what they're for. This will come with a bracket. All right, your bracket is going to bolt to the turnbuckle here. So we're going to put the speed sensor right here. You'll notice there's two different size holes on this bracket. The bigger holes are going to go here to your speed sensor. The smaller holes are going to go here to the turnbuckle. So we're going to take the bolts supplied with this arm and thread these in. And these supplied bolts are going to be 8 millimeters. And when we're ready, we'll go ahead and push these in to that bracket. Before we do that, we'll go ahead and tighten down these locking nuts. All right, so we'll start in the back. There we go. And now clip in a sensor wire. We'll put the nut on the front, and your upper arm will come with one new nut. So we'll tighten that down by hand. We'll do the same thing in the rear. Then we'll come back and torque them down. All right, it's just a little bit of resistance there. We'll just come in with our 17. And the front of the bolt is spinning. So again, the 17 millimeter wrench. Just lock that down. We're going to do the same thing on the front, just tighten it up a little bit more. So if you choose to use your new nut supplied with the upper arm, it's going to be an 18 millimeter. All right, so we've taken out most of the slack on that bolt, we'll come back and torque it down. So now that we've snugged up our bolts front and back, we're going to need to torque down those bolts under load on this wheel. So to mimic load on the suspension here, we're going to raise our jack. Once you have your suspension on this side raised up, we can then torque down our front and rear bolts. So our front bolt, we'll start with this one. It's going to be an 18 millimeter. It's going to be 69 foot-pounds. We'll back this one up with our 17 on the front. So now onto the back one. We're going to back it up with our 17 millimeter wrench. And our 17 millimeter socket. Now that you've got your two bolts front and back torqued down, you can go ahead and release the load on your suspension and remove your jack. So when I do a wheel, I like to put on top and bottom lug nut, rock back and forth, continue to tighten them down by hand. This just helps you get it nice and flat against the rotor. Give it a look, looks good. So we're going to snug these up in a crisscross pattern. And then we'll lower it down, put the tire on the ground, and torque them down. So now that we've lowered the vehicle down, our tire's on the ground, we're going to go ahead and torque down our lug nuts to 79 foot-pounds. We're going to do it in a crisscross pattern. After finishing this installation, it's important to have an alignment done on your vehicle.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.